Tonight's talk, as you can see, is home battery systems, and it's going to be given by Mike Underhill. And Mike, of course, is a past chairman, he told me, of the IET Surrey network, local network, and the past chairman of the Sussex IET local network. And Mike is at nearly every one of our events, so I'm sure you already know Mike. And as you can see, Mike now runs his own research company, and of course he's a semi-retired professor of University of Surrey. So I'm looking to Dan to see if my voice is carrying for the video. Thank you. So handing over to Mike.
Thank you very much, Norman. Is this thing working, by the way? You're getting some extra sound from this, or is it not loud enough? I'll move that round. Can you all hear me all right? Good.
It's only a tick.
Right. Home battery systems. Well, this has been an awful lot of fun. Okay, costs a bit of money as well, but it's been great fun, and I hope I can take you through the fun which has been this particular exercise. And, well, Norman said who I am, so let's start off with a picture which actually I think is the one which was used in the publicity, and it illustrates very well what is being done. It's the whole idea is shown here. You've got solar panels. Well, you may not have solar panels. It still is worthwhile. That's a very important point to make. It's still worthwhile considering a home battery system, even if you haven't got solar panels. A friend of mine has actually got a home battery system. Well, actually, his home battery system is his Ford Cougar car, but it's all connected up. And in fact, here is his system, if you like. That bit's all connected up, and you'll see as we go along some of the things which you can do on that. Now, the actual battery is there, and that's roughly, well, we'll see the size of it in a minute. But then the important thing here is a controller, and that controller is really, can be very, very, well, it is automatically very, very sophisticated, and you'll see, I hope, some of the things which are being done on that. The final point on this picture is that one of the key things you have to do when you're considering this is work out how many things are going to be loaded onto your battery system. How many things? What things? Is it your dishwasher or the washer, dishwasher, Frigidaire, what else? Heaters. Well, heaters. Every home is probably different, but the basic principles are still very easy and straightforward from that point of view. So let's move on. Why have I repeated that? Funny. Anyway, here's the system I've got, and it's on the right. Well, actually, it's a combination of these two here. It's a battery. Now, just pause for a minute. What use is a battery? The battery is useful in two ways. It stores your electricity, and it stores either from the solar panels or from the mains itself. Well, what's the point of that? Well, you've got to have what is called a dual tariff of some form. There are lots of different ones. It's got to be cheap at night time, your electricity, and okay, normal value during the day. So you can always, and these systems work perfectly well, in fact, in the winter. They save you money in the winter as well as the summer when there's no sun, sun in the winter, and of course sun in the summer. And they still give, and the margins, and we'll see how much this amounts to in just a moment. But let me continue on just showing you the kind of system I've got. It's a give energy 3.6. actually, the numbering system is rather peculiar because there is another one which is a smaller one, a version of this, which is actually called a 6. So numbers are a bit peculiar. And this one is 13.5 kilowatt hours, which can be stored in the battery. 13.5, that's what they claim. And a little bit of chemistry, because this system which I bought, I think it was probably one of the first in the country. It had just come in, and that actually tipped me over into deciding to get it last August, September, well, round about after the middle of last year. And the thing which, it seemed to be a good system, but looking up more detail afterwards, the chemistry, it's lithium, manganese, cobalt, and the Tesla one, which was because I started, when I went to speak to the guy, a very excellent guy, cook and charman, and when I spoke to him, he said, well, why not try this one? And I'd been working out on the Tesla Powerwall 2, which is also 13.5 kilowatt hours, but it used a different chemistry, and that was interesting to me, lithium ferrophosphate. And what's the difference? Well, the main difference is less output here, 6 kilowatts out, 6 kilowatt hours, so less load. Sorry, are you all right? You can see. Yeah. I'll just move this back a bit, and then I can, if I can do it without breaking everything. So on this, you could see the load was less on there. The other thing is, the lifetime's better. 12-year life guarantee, and this is, in fact, 10. So this is fundamentally a little bit better, unproven, because it hasn't been tested that much, not as much as the Tesla Powerwall. But for once in my life, and very rarely do I go to the head of the, market leading item or risk, take a risk. I always wait to see somebody else get it and find out what all the faults are before I get a system. But this time I went ahead with it, and at the end of it, you'll see I'm very pleased I did so. Right. There are two versions in the same box you can have, which is the 600 watt all-in-one here. The two of them, the two systems, can go in the same size box. It actually fills a different space, and there's a space differently. The difference is that the power output of the other one is roughly half, but this is the one I went for, and very glad I did. There is also a big difference, which we'll see. In fact, this is more suitable for what is called UPS working. That is uninterruptible power supply. And provided one gets the gateway controller of the right type, one can, on this system, have the full house load uninterrupted. Okay, not for if it's pretty heavy, it won't be for that long, but you can switch if you've got a short, power cut of a few minutes or maybe as much as an hour. You can operate without even thinking. You may not even notice there's been a power cut. So that is the importance of getting a big battery. For me, that was particularly important for reasons which you'll see when we take through the little saga of this system. Right, that's just, if you couldn't read what was there, that's your chance to read in larger writing what was on there. Anyway, so Right, let's move on. Here is my system. So people always worried about how much, how big it is. Well, here it is. There's the system. This is about head height, like the well, a little bit over head height. It's in a cupboard, which I happen to have because of the peculiarities of my house. There is the system. There is the controller of the system. You can see here just an amplified version of here. Actually, it's not much amplified, but it's a slightly different angle on that. And this is another consideration when you're getting these systems, is how is the circuitry going to be organized? Well, I have a house which has got one section which is 300 years old and various add-ons which have been roughly 100 years old, 1960s, and then I've also added on various bits of the house. So it's a real Heinz 57 house. And in fact, also, I've got 3 outbuildings. Outside garage, what we call the games room, which I like to call my research laboratory because it does both, and also a sort of something which replaced a pony and trap thing. So I didn't apply for planning permission. They haven't got me yet. It's over the 12 years, so they said they won't get me on that. So I didn't have to apply. And actually, I'll show you a picture in a minute. The research laboratory, or the Underhill Research Laboratory, actually was that particular laboratory was, in fact, well, the important thing about it when we come to it, it was used for a little company which I had, which operated for about 10 years, and so it actually was fitted with an outside loo, outside toilet, and that actually begins to affect your thinking about what you should do, believe it or not, on buying a home battery system. So anyway, that's moving on. What capacity? Well, the key point is this one. What is the average daily use for different house sizes? And this gives you a rough idea. And this is energy use, house size, and daily electricity. Low, a flat or a one-bedroom, about that's the average for the UK, 4.93. Big Brother worked it out. Medium, 2 to 3 bedroom, however, 2 to 3 people, and that's about 7.94. And then high, 4-bedroom home, 11.78 kilowatts per day. Now, my battery system could deal with the being 13.5, means that during the winter, the whole of the house could be supplied on the cheap rate. So actually, my house load is greater, and you'll see the reasons why that for. But that's the key point. So you operate for 24 hours a day, essentially, on cheap electricity, and that's the secret of the batteries. But let's get down to some more specific issues. When you're trying to calculate the load that you've actually got, you've got to either have measured it, which actually is not that easy. I couldn't get any sense out of my smart meter add-on. But what is the daily load of the house? Okay, you can actually look at your electricity supplier and find out, work out from that what it is. What is you would need to know the peak load. Are you using electric cooking? Just as a matter of interest, who uses electric cooking? Oh, quite a large proportion. What about any gas? Okay, slightly less, but almost equal. Then that's an absolutely key point, because electric cooking makes it very difficult, as we'll see, very difficult indeed. Because if the cook in the family, okay, I'll admit it's my wife, not me, decides that we will have, well, the other night we had baked potatoes, and they're absolute killer because you stick them in the oven and it's on for ages and they take a long time to do, and you see the electricity sort of taking a real dive. So that's a key thing. If you've got on gas, no problem. No problem. Electric heating, have you got that? You've got storage heaters. Only people who are very old like me have got storage heaters. Central heating, what kind? And don't forget, gas or oil, both of them have heating pumps and they provide a load on the mains. So they have to be taken into account. Have you got fridge freezers? Now this, for me, that's an absolute killer because we've got one fridge freezer and one freezer, and the freezer is in the garage outside. And that's a special problem. We'll come to that in a minute. Have you got LED lighting? It's well worth going round and replacing absolutely every light you've got it's well worth, because the ones that are on a long time, it's amazing how much extra power they add to your daily load. Security lights, okay, we've got some. They're not on for long, but nonetheless, they can be. Have you got a wood-burning stove? We have. How many people here have got wood-burning stoves? Okay, a bigger proportion than I thought. But anyway, they're jolly good. Have you got loft or underfloor or both insulation? And, well, if you've got a bit of a house that's 300 years old, you can't get under the floor. It's a solid floor on the ground. End of story. You can't do it. You've got to dig it all out and put special layers in or put underfloor heating or whatever on it. So you've had it. Right, do you need a UPS? Well, I have two very good reasons for a UPS. But we'll come to that in a minute. I'll leave you till we have a picture. Next point, you must have, for any of these systems, Wi-Fi access, because the whole thing is controlled by the Wi-Fi connection and all it. That's Wi-Fi to the unit itself, not just a smart meter. You need both. Wi-Fi access with that as, and then, well, now we'll start on 16. My house is called, which actually, looking up the records, the 300-year-old records, not quite as far back as that, it means floodgate. And yes, very nearly true. Very nearly true. You can see why. Right, if we move on. Right, let's go to something different before we move on to the detail. And that is the investment analysis. Well, is it worth my system? Quite expensive. Cost me 12K. It was 10K plus VAT. That's more than most people pay for it because I've got the large system. And also I had to get the whole of my switchboard rewired. I had two grotty switchboards and the guy, as part of the deal, rewired them. And because we got so many bits and pieces, we had to have two consumer units, where the usual thing is one consumer unit per house, but we had to have two. So anyway, so the battery capacity, to remind you, is 13 kilowatt hour, and we call that 13.5 units. And the tariff, which we use down here, is the per unit price in pence. So let's have a look at the EDF. I'm on EDF. Who's on EDF? Anybody else? Yes. And who's on Octopus? Anybody? Yeah, everybody's transferring to Octopus. But at the time of transfer, it was super. It's not quite so good now. not quite so good. They're actually, all the tariffs are beginning to equalize out. There's 1 or 2p difference in them. So we have EDF tariff, and that was in March 23. And the day tariff was a vicious 52.35. The nighttime tariff was a wonderful 6.4p. Absolutely. So it was a total no-brainer. You were going to save, the daily saving, the difference between 52 and 100 times the battery capacity. You're going to save that almost every day. So you can multiply by, 365, that would be a first error. It's a long year. Anyway, 365, sorry for the misprint. And you can then, from that sum, you can divide that into the 12K, the 12,000 you've got, and you can pay it back in 5.3 years. Wonderful. That's a real good investment. If that's actually, if you go into the summer with maximum sun, so you don't have to, you can charge from the sun pretty well the whole battery and then use it. Then in fact, it's an extreme, it's a limit. Then you get a little bit more, summer best case, and it's just a little bit better. You can pay the whole system off in 4.64. Well, a sort of average between those two, and you have to be careful doing the average. You have to actually add the two sums here, but it's a detail. But the average, when you do it carefully, is 4.95 years. That's fine. Now, that pretty well decided me to go for the system. But when I got it installed in just before October like that, when I started using it, look what happened. The day tariff was 36.47, and the night time had gone up to 10.57. So in fact, when I did the calculation on how long it would be before I could pay off the investment on that particular one, I haven't filled in all the detail up there, and I haven't filled in the 395 year either. The actual winter worst case, then the saving, it's all there, 1, 2, 3. It would pay back, okay, it's still pretty good. A 9.4 years payback is a good payback on an investment like that, the whole thing. In case of the maximum sun, it was actually a little bit better, 6.7, and it all averaged out to 6 months of sun, 6 months of winter. It's just a sort of easy way of doing the sums, the assumption. You can query that if you like, but it gives you an idea. Well, it also gives an idea, and it's on the next slide. Well, let's move to the next slide. Don't forget, mean assumes 6 months of that. Also, sun is the same as having no sun is the same as having no solar panels. So you still, if you haven't got no solar panels, you still need to know the no sun case here. You still need to know that. So now with those, let's go back January 24. Let's go through quickly. The tariff 34.99, 15.73. So in fact, the daytime tariff is steadily going down. Now, when the tariff goes down, it's one of the tricks of accountancy. If you're paying less, you're saving less. So in fact, you have to, your figures come out to begin to look a bit less interesting. Winter worst case, let's go straight to, let's forget that one for a minute. Let's go to this. 14.39 years. So, well, you've got to argue with yourself that there are other benefits from it, which indeed there are. But as a pure accountancy measure, it doesn't look so attractive. And on the other hand, summer, then it gets better, if you like. So the net effect, if you were 6 months and 6 months, there's about 10, which is still pretty good. I'd be very pleased with that. So that is the investment analysis and the reason for it. Now, I mentioned about my house being a special case, and it is a bit of a special case, and let me show you this picture. The first thing which is special about it, it faces south, and that's disastrous, because look at the roofs. There's no panel on it that faces south, but it works a treat. It actually works a treat. So don't worry too much if you haven't. So the guys actually put a panel there, 5 panels rather, 5 panels there, and hidden away from here, another 5 panels, that's that bit up there, there. That's hidden away. 15 panels in all. Each panel capable of supplying 360 watts of power, full bore, or maybe limits at that, but I haven't worked that out. But it's pretty good. They're good panels, and at the time I bought them, I bought the ones with local inverters, not with one main inverter. So it was better from that point of view. So that was the panel. Well, what's this? I haven't mentioned that before, but I've got solar water heating, which I had long before the panels. And actually, in the summer, it's very good. The rest of the year, it's useless. So it faces west, so it gets the evening sun. It warms up everything for your bath at night. So let's go round the house a bit and see the other problems. This is the back of it. It's got a conservatory, which is my office as well, and also the summer dining room. And it's you can see this bit. If you look at this bit here, that is the old house, the 300-year-old bit in here. And the roof has been built over the old roof. So the timbers from the old roof are inside. We'll see that in a minute. We built on, there was a kitchen which was built on here, kitchen and a utility room built on here. And it had a flat roof. And flat roofs always leak. So we thought, well, it's better to build another bedroom on top. It's cheaper than trying to fix the tap. But anyway, it was a consideration, a joke. But anyway, so we built that bit on here. We also built the conservatory, and we also slightly extended this bit. Now, this is important. That is where, inside that sort of corridor room with a big cupboard, is where the gizmo is, the battery system is actually there. But look very carefully, in fact, probably it's easier to look in this picture. Oh, here's the battery system hidden inside there. You can look through the window and see it. Here is actually the mains coming into the house. So it's all the meter is inside. There's some actually on the other side as well, but the main metering is on the outside. And here's a well. That well is a big problem. Actually, it's a lifesaver as well. Why? Well, when we got into the house 40 years ago, then there were lots of problems. It was damp. We thought we got rising damp, so we cured that with injection and all the rest of it like that. But then we got descending damp. So we were tackled from every direction. We cured the rising damp, but part of that cure was the fact that the water table where we are, we're near enough on an artesian spring. More of that at the moment. So the water table in the winter is about that amount below ground level. That's all. And if it rains hard, it comes right up. And we used to get a small amount of flooding when we built on the conservatory. Well, we call it the meter room. When we built on the solid floor on that, which is fortunately, well, we cured. But what did we do to cure it? We had to put a pump in the well to lower the level. The well's only about 14 feet deep. So in maybe 300 years ago, they didn't need to make it any better than that. They could, but because we're not digging water out of the well normally, we had to put a pump in, and the pump, which is connected there, it's under the flagstones actually, and it goes out to a land drain here and pumps down to a pond at the end, or dribbles down to the land drain to the bottom there. So in fact, and here's the rope on there which holds the pump up. It's not a good idea to hold a pump up on its electrical cable. So that's the pump. Now there's another problem on that pump which caused us, if we went away and there was a short power cut, thanks to the safety mechanism which is on that, the safety pump, it would trigger out, and when the power came back on again, it wouldn't go back on again. So if we were away on holiday in New Zealand or somewhere like that, it wouldn't pump out. And if there was a flood then at that time, so the UPS for us was a jolly good idea. So that in fact now, because we never get power cuts, because, well, the UPS covers over that. And part of the problem, which is sort of related to that, we'll come to that, to the next problem on that. So a UPS has other good reasons, uninterruptible power supply, because it stops that going in that way. So here is the cupboard that we saw. This is looking from the conservatory towards the old part of the house there. There's the cupboard there. And well, there's my office. My wife insists that a conservatory should be used for doing as a greenhouse as well, so at least during the winter. So here's a further out picture, and there's a lot of my electronic gear and stuff on the right here. Bit of a piano there, electric piano. And you can see here into the old part of the house. I'm going to continue into the old part of the house as well. Here is looking back in the direction, there's the other end of the conservatory there, little electric fire here. It is important. There's a 1 kilowatt fire there. And look, this is the old window, which is now totally, the house is totally enclosed. That's the old window, that's the old front door of the original 300-year-old house. It's very interesting. It's got the beams and that. And actually, I haven't shown it very well though, there was a bigger hole here for the ladder, which went up to the next floor, which they used to do in those days. So anyway, this is actually looking out in the reverse direction, and here is our wood-burning stove. So I mentioned that on the list as one of the things which is useful. And it was an absolute godsend when we arrived. In fact, this was all boarded up. So we opened that up, found a nice aperture there and stuck in a wood-burning stove, and it was an absolute blessing. It saved our bacon as far as the first winter was concerned. And the other thing is that looking out through that window, the old road it's on was right up next to the house. You could put your hand out of the old window there and shake hands with the coachman going by. You know, it was that close. They moved, thank goodness, 100 or so years ago. They moved the road over, and so it's now about 10 meters away. So that's much more reasonable. Right. Here's proof that there's a house within a house. Here's the old house. Here's the old beams. Here's some of the old beams here. Some of them have actually interacted or been used again, if you like, in the new house, the 100-year-old roughly house. And this is, we've got 7 lofts, not just one that loft, we've got 7. And they've all been done with this. Now, I thought that was a good idea to do that. And I had no idea what a good idea it was until they'd done it. Because the old chimney, there's an old chimney there and an old chimney there, particularly the one on the left-hand side, of the old house, was not properly connected to the new house. So water was getting in. When they put this in, well, there were gaps. Wind could blow water in. So when they put this in, it sealed the whole thing up, and the house made another leap forward in being dry. It really is a big difference. But anyway, so let's just move on. And just out of interest, to prove the age, these marks show the old way of doing the roofs. They used to construct 300 years ago, the roofs on the ground, assemble the whole thing up, and then mark up with Roman numerals, and there's one Roman numeral there, a 6, and there's an upside down 6 there, and that is to get the house to match everything together. Right, moving on. Here's the location, and this is pertinent because I mentioned the springs that we've got under the house, and not a very good picture. Google Earth, actually, that year or whenever they did it, it was absolutely hopeless. It was clouds. So I actually looked on Google Maps and got a very much a better picture. And this is the layout of our little, if you like, garden. It's an acre and a half. Here's the house. Here's the 4 roofs here. You can see the solar panels and the other panels on there. Not very well. A garage tucked in behind the tree here. The games room, the laboratory there, and then where there was an old garage for a pony and trap arranged out. And by the way, this was if the planning inspector came round, the previous owners, they had a shed much smaller than that one, but nobody would have measured it, and they had a cow in it. So in fact, I was going to say, well, it's just a cow shed. It's sort of renewing a cow shed. Anyway, never came to that, thank goodness. Moving on, just expanding up. This is the house here, and actually that's the neighbour, the nearest neighbour behind, and then there's the nearest neighbour in there. And this was done in Google Maps, I can't see the date. And is it 2010? Under Google. 2024, so it's really up to date. And actually I've wondered whether Google Maps and Google World have a little internecine warfare between them. They won't exchange maps, because if they did, they'd or their photographs. But anyway, here's the lane. It's been shifted away a little bit from our house, and actually, one of my sons has bought 8 acres here for greening purposes. So, in fact, moving on from that, going north, here we are, and here's the North Downs. And that is why we've got these springs. It's the North Downs, the chalk, water runs down it. It comes down, there's some sandstone, and we'll come to the sandstone. And sandstone contains iron, or often suitable stuff for making iron. And as we come down towards us, and then there's clay. As the level goes down, it fills like London clay, but on the other side of the North Downs. So it actually on here. But the water from the chalk runs underground and pops itself up. in these springs all over the place. So, and we happen to have them. There's a few also our neighbour has around there. And there's also, this is our neighbour on an earlier map, is Clero's 2004 or 5, I think, on that. And this is all sort of pertinent, but you might be interested. But that, hidden away in the trees there, is a pond, which is pretty well empty in the winter, in the summer, and fills up nicely in the winter. So that pond, it's about 300 meters away from that. And it's an old mine. We didn't know we lived in a mining area. It's an old mine. It's an iron mine. And in fact, it's a Napoleonic iron mine. And it was dug down in Napoleonic times to make cannonballs. And the local area was actually, we made cannonballs on that. But it's all to do with this flooding that we got on there. Okay, it's a bit of digression, but hopefully a bit of fun. And then, by the way, going back to this map, if you compare the previous map, down here, clear. Here, a farm. A farm has sprung up opposite us. Okay, it's not too bad, and it's quite nice hearing the cows mooing. Anyway, so, wrong way. Well, right, getting back to the main topic on that. Here we have how we control it. It's all done. I can do the whole thing, as you'll see in a minute, I hope, the whole thing on my mobile phone. And these are screens from the mobile phone. It's the kind of things that you can do and control. And the first screen to notice off, that's the same size as the mobile phone held there. The first screen shows what's going on, and it's a little animated screen. It's got little flashing arrows and things on it, but it shows the system. It shows the solar cells up here, and they were generating at that time, and the time, excuse me, getting in the way, it was 7 minutes past 9 this morning. So that is up to date. And even at that time, there was, from the solar cell panels, there was actually 1.13 kilowatts coming out. So even quite early in the morning. And the whole load of the house at that time, after breakfast, 623 watts. Now that turns out to be roughly between 560 and 600 is the base load of my house. That's thanks to all the fridges and freezers and all the rest of it. That's the base load of the house. And so that's it. Then the final one, you press that, corresponds to the button on the left, the house system, the dashboard. The battery at that time was 100% charged because it had been charged overnight and the sun had just topped it up. So it was all topped up nicely. Now, the next button is pressing this one, which is here. So this one has been pressed, and that's the chart which we got. Sorry, is that wrong way? The next second button there. And here is a history of what happened up until 9:07, or it was a bit later, I think. 9:05 was a bit earlier, I beg your pardon. Here's what happened up until then. And we've got various things which you can see on here, which I'll have to remind myself. Generation, a consumption, battery charge, and battery discharge. And they're all plotted in different colors along here. But already there's some interesting things. It's only up to about, well, it's not quite up to 9 o'clock actually. There's a bit of a data lag in putting it here, but you can see overnight the battery is charged. So that's the battery charge. You can see also a spike on here, which is actually the I've deliberately during this is free. This is cheap electricity. Up grid to home, battery to home, and total consumption. And that's this morning. So you can see that was at 9 o'clock-ish. It's a bit of a lag on this. So you can see it all charging overnight and up at this end, and then going down, and it's well, you can see the charging up there, but that is on there. And then here is my wife putting the kettle on for a cup of tea in the morning. So all these things, like big brother, you can see what's going on. Sorry, let's go back. And for the final one, this is the battery charging. That's the battery with a big spike of discharge, which is probably about 7:30, which is after the it would have gone on charging if on there. You've also got the latest data up here, which was at 9:15. In fact, it was 100% fully charged still, because thanks to the little bit of sun which we got on there, and so on and so forth. So you can see the message is you can see all sorts of stuff on this, which is rather interesting. So let's just quickly go through the other things that you can do. You can set up a charge mode, start time, end time, and it depends whether you're on EDF tariff or you're on one of the other tariffs, which will give you less charge power. You can limit the charge power. Well, I limit to about 3. It could be 6 kilowatts, but I've put it down to 3.5, so it doesn't sort of belt the battery too hard on that. Discharge power, I left it at 6 because you do get spikes, so you could set it up in that way. There's also another menu item further down on that, and where you can set it up for a different smart tariff, extra. If you've got an electric vehicle charger, you need to do things. You've got smart plugs, etc., etc. So there are lots of it does lots more things than you probably need. Now, the next thing is there's a little. If I go back to, there's a little button here, and if you press that, it comes up with some quite interesting information, which is what is the carbon intensity. This is from the national grid, and it will give you a figure, and it's amber 173. That's fairly high. Why is it high? Well, here are the figures below, and unfortunately it's on a scrolling thing, so I've had to take several pictures. We've got gas imports, what's nuclear, so gas and neutral, and then biomass, wind, pretty low at that time, and then solar, pretty low, bit early in the morning, and then hydro and coal. Well, at least coal's down at the bottom, so on that. Here's at what time was this? 11:30, a little bit later. It's gone nicely green. It's gone down from 173 to grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, and the mix is a bit different. Solar's come up, imports come up. Not very windy day, so wind doesn't do at all well today. Normally, wind is the most important thing. It's it doesn't generate any CO2. So in fact, if you are virtue signaling, then in fact you can do it in this way. Right. We just some other things quickly on there, and then we'll show some of these things. This is some of the things from this tab, and there it's got sort of sub units. You can set this tab up. You can have a monthly view. You can have a total. Now this total is in the various colored categories. Look at the sun, the yellow. This is from when I started in August, September, October. That's a little bit of a month. But then here is the yellow is the sun. So you can see, but it doesn't reduce to zero at all, even in the winter. That's the important thing. It doesn't on that. Here is a monthly view, which actually starts on the 1st of the month, so it's a bad time to start, but it was up until today. And here's the fluctuations. You can see the sun and the sort of poor day that yesterday, wasn't it? Rained. So you can see you didn't get much sun. You did get some, so it's still pretty good. But you can plot all these things. This is actually energy graph. This was this morning, and you can see later on in the morning. This was this afternoon. Sorry, 1546 this afternoon. You can see we've had quite a lot of sun. We've done well. And in fact, we can also check the amount of sun of generation. This is 4.79, the amount of generation, but actually that is the generation to home. So the total generation is 10.98 kilowatts hours. So it's nearly, it's getting up to quite a healthy contribution on that. So around about, it varies between 5 and 15 at the moment, about what you can get. And obviously, if you're up at 15, you overcharge the battery. And unfortunately, and this is the thing, is you give away electricity. This little blue number, 1.13, is free electricity for EDF. So it makes me cross, because they won't pay they don't pay a feed-in tariff on that. This is actually, I think, yesterday, no, 2 days ago, 5th, like that, and which was, and that sort of shows you, well, that shows you something else interesting. We did on that night have baked potatoes. And what happened, this red electricity from the grid, that's cheap. If you run out of battery, which we did on that, then you get some red here. And that is going prematurely to the expensive electricity. So your batteries run out. And it wouldn't have run out if we hadn't had a baked potato and if we'd bothered to light the wood-burning stove, you wouldn't have had to put on that little heater. So it really is, you really have to think if you're going to optimize it. It's great fun, actually, so you can do it on that. Now, various other things. Very quick one, 93% was what was claimed for efficiency of the battery. So I had a look at some of the records and had a look at actually from January to April, not May, excluded May. And from here, you've got battery to home, battery to grid, but you can work out from comparing this to this, these two numbers. This is actually doing, clicking the button on, this is the battery discharge, and this is the battery charge. So that's the battery charge, that's the battery discharge. This number over this number gives you the efficiency. And there it is, 96.8%. So that really is, and I think it's because it's the new chemistry. It's really, you know, it's better than the Tesla. Anybody got a Tesla car? I think it's better. I don't know, but it's early days because the old. If I did it over the whole, since August last year till now, it came up with 92%. So it's a little bit below the 93. But when you're setting this thing up, you have to calibrate the battery, and that is quite a problem. You have to charge the battery up full, discharge it full, and when you're discharging it, you're giving it all back to EDF or whoever you've got. So you don't, so you lose out, and that was quite an expensive exercise. Anyway, quickly now, and this hope this is going to work. We'll see. What we're going to do is to escape from that and go to camera. Where is it? Sage. I've lost it. There it is. Right. This should be, yes, it's working. This is actually what is on my phone now. And this is showing you, now I could work out, when I came to this lecture, this figure was 100%. So my wife's been cooking. So that's 100%. You can see, oh, she's finished cooking, that's all right, yeah. So, and you can see the base load is now down at 483, which is sort of pretty normal on that. So now, home and away, this is data from 4 minutes 32 seconds ago. If you're at home, you can get onto the Wi-Fi at home and you get results every 5 seconds. So in fact, you know, now that's the one thing which I gather Tesla's better at. You get instant data, but you don't get all the history stuff, which I've got. They don't store the same data. So if you're interested in, if you're a bit of a techie, then go for this system. Right, let's move on. Now that is yesterday. That's a repeat of the one which I put on. Now what I'm going to do is to go to here, and that should be, what's the date today? 7th. That's the day. So what's been happening here? Battery to home. The battery. So the battery's been charging the home, but there's a bit of a lag. So that's 8 o'clock. We haven't got there, so, but it shows that the battery has been doing itself. But there's a really good lot of sun. We've actually done quite well on generation, and the total consumption is 14.49. And actually, I haven't showed it on the other graphs. Well, let's see if we can find something which does the total. Yes, I know. We'll go to here. We go to monthly. Here we are. Here is energy graph. Total consumption. That's the figure. That's all these things. But it's showing it first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So that is the consumption. It hasn't. Maybe because I wasn't there, but it hasn't got it, but it will go up. So this gives me some idea of what my house uses. So on a good day, I'm below 20. On a bad day, I'm above 20. So it's a pretty heavy load on my house because of all the gizmos and things which are on there. It's a pretty heavy load. So, right. Well, And any questions on while I've got this thing still going? What do you want to know?
Well, I've got a question because had that experience.
Yes.
With COVID, and the most interesting thing I found was that it did affect my behaviour. It did affect when I did the washing. It did affect the bucket baked potato scenario. And so my question is, does your wife use this? Do people in your have you changed your behaviour as a result of
What of this?
having this system?
Having this? Yes, basically, but not in the way that if
Well, your family needs it, your wife.
excuse me. It's the way. Excuse me. The change the behaviour is basically we argue more. Why have you put that light on? Why have you done this? Well, you know, oh, it's going to be expensive electricity. Did you realise that? Oh, why didn't you tell me you were going to put the washing machine on? Can you put the dishwasher on tomorrow morning, not tonight? You know, quite a lot of little things.
Has she got the information that you have?
No,
Ah,
she's not a techie.
but it's not.
Well, it's not the same. Well, okay. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So I have to argue that. Right. Well, I'll go back to the other. So how do I do that? Find this down here. Go up to there. Go to. I'm going to have to clock through. No, the wrong thing. That one. Right. Find my machine and rattle through. Missed out a couple of things actually, but never mind. Demonstration, yes, just wrapping up now. Yes, the thing I've missed out, I'll just tell you about before. I haven't shown you the picture of the control system for our sewage system used to try and run uphill. Sewage systems running uphill don't work very well. So it was almost a very, very flat, and it went into a so-called septic tank or cesspit or whatever like that. And we had to pump that out. It wasn't a good idea. So the sewage system now, I had it put in when we had our alterations made. My brother-in-law actually was in the business, put it in, and it's a big tank with two huge pumps, and when the level rises up from the tank, they're fed into the tanks. When it rises up, it's pumped under the lane to a main sewer, which is 25 metres in, fortunately, only that, in the farmer's field. And I had to pay the farmer wicked amount of money to get permission to do that. And I had to get my brother-in-law's friend to mole the thing across. And it's very successful. So we don't have to pump water uphill or push it. The slope would have been almost all right, but the guy said, no, you really need a pump system. We were off power for 13 days in 1987, when there was the gale where everything blew over. And I said, never again, because we couldn't do anything. You know, we couldn't have a bath. We were beginning to regret that, and we couldn't do anything. And oh yes, the fridge freezer. The freezers, of course, at that time, they all went off, and we used to have barbecues with our neighbours in October to eat up all the stuff which was in the fridges at that time. So it was good fun, good neighbourly stuff. The other thing is, which I forgot to mention, the freezer is in the garage. And so we have to, you must not let a freezer go below 0. You must not do it. It's partly to do with the lubrication freezing. It's also because the new non-CFC stuff, the new safer stuff, actually doesn't work below about 2 degrees external temperature. So I have installed a little 500 watt heater that when the temperature goes down, it blows hot air at the freezer. And it's wonderful, it works, except it costs electricity. So anyway, finally, let's finish off electricity charges. This is the proof. Look at this bit first. Balance on your last bill was a debit. Electricity charges 164.44. My normal standing charge is about £239 per month. Direct debit collection on, sorry, 290, that's it, it's on there. I'm now in credit. So it's the first month, moving from the winter time to the summertime, I'm going to be racking up the credit at least the £100 per month. So in fact, I will have to go onto a different system and negotiate. And they actually say, you know, I can go onto a different tariff on that. And the final thing which is on here, which is the units that you pay are changing all the time. Unless you're on fixed tariff, they're changing all the time. So somewhere it's, here we are. The unit rate is now 29.52p per kilowatt hour, and the unit rate is 13.27. So actually, the margin has got worse from that. So you're not getting so. I'm sorry, I haven't had time to do. Only got that yesterday. I haven't had time to work out what that means. But that's pretty good. It's proof that the whole system works.
Mike, can I ask a question on that? Can I ask a question?
Yes, go back.
As I understand it, and my eyes are straining here, you went through about a megawatt in April to May. Your nighttime consumption
Yes.
was just over a megawatt. But how did you manage to use that much in 30 days if your battery could only be charged to...
Because I take it off the grid. It's not in a, sorry, it's a month. This is a month.
Yes, but at night,
Yes.
charging the battery.
Yes, I know what you mean. I'll have to go back to the thing and show you that later. You can. Actually, there is a figure. There is a figure here. There is a figure which tells you. Electricity used at the expensive rate in the last month, 17.9 kilowatt hours, cost me 531s. So that is the entire expensive rate for last month. For the cheap rate, where is it? It's 134. So if we hadn't had baked potatoes, that would have been zero.
My question is, you've taken 1,000 kilowatt hours of nighttime electricity.
Yes.
Yes, but it's
And your battery is only a 10 kilowatt hour battery or something?
Yes, but
the reason is that while you're charging the battery, you're still pumping electricity into the house load, the house load. So you've got to add on to what you've said. You've got to add on the steady 500 watts for 24 hours, which is 12 kilowatt hours.
Yes, but I'm only talking about nighttime. So So you've got 6 hours of phone.
Well, okay, you've got 6 hours,
It's still an
but
enormous mismatch.
it's 7 hours. You got it's economy, the older economy 7. You've got 7 sevens, and that the songs do work out, Greg. Yes, they do work out. But I think that's the proof. Any other questions?
Just one question. You mentioned about the UPS.
Sorry, I've got.
Are you using this system as a UPS? Because in like a data center,
Yes.
to feed that IT load, the UPS is used as like it gets rid of all the peaks.
Yes.
It smooths it out.
Yes.
In a household environment, is it roughly doing the same?
Yes, roughly, but
It is.
only while the batteries. You've got to have a big battery. Sorry, let me just. Oh, why did you do that? Oh,
It depends. There are different types.
I pressed the wrong button.
Because you can have an online UPS
Yes.
constantly filters and monitors. It constantly changes electricity. You're using inverters, so it's online all the time. UPS you normally put on a computer or in a house. It's actually an
Yes.
online UPS that watches the mains and will switch over in a number of milliseconds. If you
Yeah. Yeah.
So it depends. Yeah, it depends.
It's 25 milliseconds. This switches the whole load.
Okay, so he's not. So what? Sorry. What Mike is using is an offline UPS.
Okay.
So this thing is like, it's a backup. It's sitting there, it's
Yeah.
watching your mains, and in about half a cycle, as it comes off, the UPS will see it and come on. In a data set, you can't risk the spike.
That's right.
No, you
So
can
you actually use a
No.
UPS, which is actually doing UPS
to smooth.
backup. It's also doing
Yes.
line conditioning. The electricity coming in on the mains in a data center
Yes.
never reaches the electrical equipment.
that's right.
It goes
Let-
through UPS all the
Unless
time.
you actually put it
You're
onto
online.
bypass.
It's online. It's used
I've
online.
missed out for some reason. Something else.
Home.
No.
Let me just
No, you
go
only
back.
need
When
it
it's
there as
sensitive
an
electrical equipment, yeah.
Yeah.
Save.
A lot of computers nowadays, the power supply, the switch was so good in them. If you unplug them, they still run, anyway. If you understand there's not latent energy in them.
They're not like the old, what are they called?
They switch mode a lot. No, that's why you can just plug them into any voltage. They just go.
Let me.
You don't normally, I wouldn't, don't normally get that.
Okay. Can I just, because it's vaguely related to that, but this is another thing, which is Axel, in partnership with Give Energy, it could have been EDF, because beat the peak. I have earned £32 of real money, Okay, you subtract from that about 15-20% for the electricity which is actually used, but that is profit through allowing them to use my battery so that they don't have to start up a power station. And so if they've got enough people with batteries and they can work it out, then they can grab the peak power between 5 and 6, or what is usually the time when everybody gets home, puts kettle on and all the rest of it. So that peak power comes out of your battery. In order to get the peak power, so that's it here. This is generic, it's not an actual, but that's your battery going down, and then you actually, or your load here, and then you feed that to them. And they pay you because you have to, obviously for that, you have to pay it at the expensive rate, but they pay to cover that. So you come out in profit. But in terms of money, then that is the other thing. And people with cars can also do the same thing. But it is very important. It's highly organized so that it costs a lot of money to start up a power station. And if you can stop, just because you only need it for half an hour, it's a short time. And if you can avoid having to do it by grabbing everybody else's electricity, it's well worth coming to a deal, which is what Axel actually, I went with Axle rather than the EDF because I'm still sort of wondering whether I'll go to a different tariff with a different company. And I didn't want to be tied to EDF on this scheme, so it's more independent. It's related to my solar system. So sorry, that was something else which I should have done, which I skipped over. Sorry. Any other final questions?
Is that why you're on the variable tariff?
Sorry?
Is that why you're on the variable tariff with EDF? So it's
Yes.
not tied?
Yeah.
And also with the cost balance, how long it takes to pay back. After 12 years, you'll have to potentially have to replace the battery. How much does it cost just to replace the battery, slot it in and out?
Yes. The company Cook and Charman say that they, Big Brother again, monitor the battery, and they will advise, and well, okay, you'll know yourself the thing goes down. When that 96% or whatever it was starts going down, then you know there's something not there. There are 3 batteries in the system, and you can detect which one is gone, and you can replace them not all the same at the same one. And I don't know, they cost a couple of grand or something like that.
Thank you for the presentation. It's fantastic. I'm very interested, and I don't have that home. My big worry with that is you started off with a business case because the peak electricity is 52p.
Sure.
And the cheap stuff is 6. And by the time you reach the end of the presentation, the difference between the two is only 100%. It's now 20. And what's going to happen is more and more people buy the system. The electricity company won't be able to make their ridiculously stupid profits. And those rates will come closer and closer. And the payback will become so big it will never pay back. That's my worry. You said, you said 12 years on your first diagram.
Yeah.
With a
No. If they become equal and go down.
Can you just go back to your first slide? Would that be okay? The first money slide.
Yeah, sure.
If you just, could you just show
Sure,
the first
yeah.
money slide?
But you can then argue differently. The electricity costs down. So do you add that in? Because you're paying less. You're paying less because the price of electricity has gone down as well.
Yes, but you've got a £12,000 capex on your system.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's.
And you're right,
I've done it fair. You can do the sums for yourself.
it's
I've done
fine.
it. I've done the case for me. I was going to get it even if it. You know.
Absolutely fine, yeah, absolutely fine.
I wasn't going to do a business. The business case was only for my wife.
I fully understand. That's great.
Charging and the storage, rather than charging up your battery with what used to be a much
Totally agree.
preferential
Well,
rate.
the other thing is to leave it a couple of years because the electric cars are now bi-directional. You buy a car and don't drive it. You stick it on your driveway, you don't pay £12 for the. I think it's a bit expensive. And the electric EV charge on an EV charger, it's less than the Economy 7. You get it cheaper. So you actually want to freak the electric charging in terms of charging your car.
I think that's an important point. If you haven't got solar panels, you're probably right. It's not. You know, if you have got solar panels, wonderful. You know.
Solar panels is a given.
Yeah, solar panels make the difference.
Yeah, no,
I'm with you. I have solar panels, and my solar panels are giving EDF or whoever buying free electric generation during the day when I'm not at home, and in the evening when I'm using my electric oven or what have you.
do your web potato.
Either way, exactly. Then I'm having to import from the grid.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm listening to you is to borrow the sunlight and keep it until this evening. Just what the sun gave me this afternoon, I can now use this evening. And never mind.
No, makes total sense. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
I'm with you on the giving away free energy to EDF. It's not, doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I was looking at it from my perspective. I don't have solar panels, and I priced one of these systems up from the break-even point. With the solar panels, it's a no-brainer because everybody needs to do that, including some big generators who've got wind power systems that don't have local battery storage and are actually, I don't know if anyone knows, but the government last year paid over £500 million to their windmills in Scotland not to generate electricity because they couldn't use it and they haven't got big enough cable to bring it into England. Yeah, over 500 million. So if you're making it absolutely wind or solar, it's a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. Get batteries. Totally agree with you.
If you're right, the argument for using cheap nighttime rates versus daytime rates is being out.
It just worries me that you make the business case, you go and buy it, and then someone moves the goalposts, and you're sat there losing money.
The thing is, on that, the goalposts are continually moving because technology is improving.
Yeah, it's also,
If you look at the solar panels now, they're always improving. You know, it's, I mean, I'm negotiating at the moment, and everybody keeps coming back and saying, "Oh, we've got new technology now of 500 watt panels." You know, roughly they're a little bit bigger, I think, than the ones you've got yourself. Yeah.
Well, for some people, it's not an open and shut case, you know.
But the thing is, if you dive in now, and then again you look at it in 6 months' time, you haven't got the most up-to-date technology because it's
Always true, always true. You haven't got the. So I was first on my solar panels. They're still ahead of most people in the game, even though they were, I don't know, 10, 20 years. No, not 20, but, you know, there was some time. I chose the right panels for a different reason. I didn't want them to generate EMC interference because I'm a radio amateur. So anyway, but yes, the technology improves, and I hope I've hit the new chemistry ahead of the game. I think I possibly have.
I mean, one of the questions I'm asking as well is what sort of batteries are you putting on my system that you're proposing? Because unfortunately, I'm drawing a line at Chinese batteries. And that's just my preference.
about 90%
Yeah.
of the entire world market.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
but there
Well,
are some.
yeah,
There
yeah.
are some UK or
Yeah,
European
okay.
battery makers that are
Yeah,
equal now to
they
China.
should have got the lithium factory going or whatever it was. You know, the government pulled out on. You know, that was a shame. That should have been happened. But I agree. Yeah.
Any more questions for Mike?
See, for the whole system, what are the total maintenance activities and costs?
Probably the most recurrent one is cleaning the solar panels, getting them clean. We're surrounded by trees. I've got over 100 trees, and in fact, they sort of put green stuff all over the panels, and so. But I haven't had them cleaned. I've had them cleaned once, and I reckon I'll get away with 3 or 4 years at the most to get them clean. Ours are difficult. In the old days, I would have done it myself, but I'm not agile enough, and my wife wouldn't let me. Sorry, probably wise. So, in terms, the other one was the one which was mentioned. How long do the batteries last? I don't know. All I do know is the evidence is that the new chemistry is longer life. I've seen other claims, and they put 12 years because they don't know either. They don't know. It might,
The batteries will get cheaper because
the batteries will get cheaper, so that's so you've got to balance it so you can get to, and also there are other quirks, like at the moment if you buy battery and with panels you don't pay VAT at the moment, but that's just an incentive which won't last forever. So you got to decide. It's a difficult thing. So I'll admit I just went in. I'm going to have these things.
We've got a question over here, Mike.
How much did you pay for the cleaning of the solar panels?
How much did you pay for the cleaning of the solar panels?
Oh, I don't know, a couple £100.
How long does that take? What, an hour or something?
Sorry,
How long does it take? Like an hour just to clean it or something?
it's done in the morning. So I could have got it done by somebody else, but I got it by Cook and Charman because I knew the guys. So anyway, But yeah, but everything requires maintenance and up to. But I don't think it's excessive. I don't think it's excessive.
I've got a question for you, Mike. Because it wasn't clear to me when you showed the photograph. You said this is the system, that's the controller. There was a semi-largish panel. Is that where the batteries are installed in?
Yes, they're inside. The thing is about like that, about that high, and there are three batteries inside, and you can you get the guys in. They take the front off, take out the offending battery, put the other one back in. Or it's a very, very easy job. Very easy job.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions for Mike? Doesn't look like it, does it?
Okay.
So, thank you, Mike, for an interesting discussion, interesting presentation. Let's give Mike a round of applause.
Thank you.